What's up, you guys? I'm coming to you with the next installment of the Words That Spoke to My Soul, my video vlog. I'm getting caught up, so I'm kind of happy that I'm actually able to sit down and talk with you guys today. For this particular episode, we're going to be discussing Hold My Heart, and this is by Blackburn. And if you had an opportunity to follow along with this back in March, it was a little bit of controversy in regards to me even having her on the reading list. I selected her, one, because she was an independent author, and two, I found out that she had written her very first book, this one here, by means of her mother sharing it on her Facebook page. And I used to work with her mother, and we were really good friends, and still have contact with each other, even since I left working with her many years ago. So I was more than happy to add her to our list and be able to support her on her journey in becoming a published author. Now, I had did this way back in December. I compiled the list December of 2018, and I announced the list January 2019. But it wasn't until March that I was contacted in regards to her. And I was sent a private message in my inbox, and basically they shared some posts that she had made, as well as a background interchange on some other stuff that happened in a private writers community group. And at first I was like, man, what am I to do? I'm a Black Book Club owner. I try not to get involved in controversy and whatnot, but I was really put in a bad situation. So I contacted Kayan and I let her know, okay, you know, I was contacted, this is what was said, you know, even though I wasn't necessarily offended, you know, it has the potential of offending others, so I'm going to take your book off the list. And basically she's like, you know, she had been attacked and harassed throughout the situation. She was sorry that I even had to get involved, but you know, she did still wish me well on my journey on what I'm trying to do, and she understood. But just through our interchange, because we had several emails, I decided to leave it up to the group if they were going to read the book or not, because I was already halfway through the book by the time I was contacted. So I went ahead and made a post to my group, and one of my leading participants in the group was like, well, I don't know what's going on, but you know, there's so many other authors that have contributed to the literary world, and they were racist or had racist tendencies or other things that went on in regards to it, but their work still spoke for itself. So I opted not to, you know, I continued on reading it, and if they wanted to read, they could continue on reading it as well, and I just chose not to get involved. However, I did want to use this as an opportunity, as a teaching moment of what happens behind the scenes in the writing community. So I offered to interview Kayan, and as well as the other person who was involved in the situation. The second person did decline, and but Kayan did participate. So if you haven't had an opportunity to listen to my interview that I did with her one-on-one, go ahead and check out my podcast, sponsored on Anchor, but you know, you can listen to it on several different platforms, including Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So there's so many different ones that you can listen to it on. So you can get her take on the situation, and while I can see how her comments could come off as racist, based on me knowing her family background and such, it didn't appear that that was her intent, and so I was still willing to go ahead and support her as a writer. But in a later podcast, I'm going to discuss a vlog. I'm going to discuss some other things where I understand the response from the other authors. But that's something else, so we won't get into that. So that kind of sums up the controversy that came along with this particular author. But as I stated, I still chose to read her book, and I'm happy I did, because I really did enjoy it. And especially with it being her first book, I thought she did an awesome job, and I can't wait for the next installment in the series, because this is a series, and I know she's working on it, and the next one should be coming out at least sometime next year. But you know, you can follow her on her page to see about that. She has a Facebook, Instagram. I'm not so certain if she still has her Twitter. If you heard that, that's my husband. I don't know what he's doing. He knows. Yeah. Hey. But and she's also on Goodreads. You can follow her there. But if you had opportunity to read my written review, you'll know that 3 things spoke to my soul in this particular book. As long as I'm going to be referring to my notes, so if I look down, that's what I'm doing. But the first thing is that you have to exercise true forgiveness and accept people's faults. And one of the problems that Anna had was that she couldn't forgive Grayson for what he did when he was a teenager, like just getting out of high school. And you know, growth is still needed, and she was holding on to that, and she was even younger than him. So you know, she was still holding on to mistakes that happened way back then. And I think it was unrealistic, because I know for myself, I'm not the same person I was when I was 18, let alone the person I was at 25. I'm 36 now. I'm not even the same person I was at 30. So people continuously grow, and you have to allow that person to do that. And all of the mistakes and experiences that we have in life help shape the ultimate woman or ultimate man that we end up becoming. And that sometimes you need those things to happen in order to become a better person, to be the best manifestation of you possibly could be. And you know, in the book, basically Grayson decided, okay, I know you're not ready for some things, and rather me hurt you, I'm just going to go ahead and break up right now, and we can get back together later. And she took that to be, you know, he was being selfish and inconsiderate, and, you know, just thinking with his second head and all that other kind of stuff. But for me, I didn't necessarily agree with that, because in the end, he was trying not to hurt her, even though it still ended up hurting her. Ultimately, would you rather him have cheated on you, or go ahead and separate so that he didn't cheat on you? Of course, I know some people will say, well, love should have prevailed, but at the age of 18 for a guy, that's kind of hard. And I think that it was the honorable thing for him to do, to go ahead and walk away from the situation. He, you know, although he thought he would be able to control it in some instances, because, okay, you should be good because I'm walking away from you and going to do what I'm going to do, and we can just get back together. But what he had to understand was that it was her choice whether or not she was going to be agreeable to that. Yeah, we're going to break up, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be okay with us getting back together. So not only did you have the age difference, but you also had the long distance relationship that they had. They were like super far, and it was just, I don't know, unrealistic on my part for her to think that you know, growth wasn't needed, and you know, you had to learn how to exercise forgiveness. But again, I think that has something to do with her age. Now, in regards to my second point, be open-minded when getting to know someone. I said this, although in this case it was accurate, when Anna had met the guy that came to her store, and you know, of course he kind of wasn't her type or whatever, but you know, in her world, maybe her type doesn't exist, because who she thought Grayson was, he didn't end up being in the end. So perhaps what she thought she liked didn't truly exist. So she went ahead and gave this particular guy a chance or whatever. But you know, in my opinion, she was kind of judgmental of him, even when she was interacting with him or whatnot. But ultimately, he did end up, you know, being like just a total waste of time. But I just feel like you shouldn't necessarily judge a book by its cover. You need to open it, examine it, and although first impressions do matter, sometimes they, you know, a person could be having a bad day or whatever else. And another reason why I say be open-minded is because with my situation, I was looking at my husband to see if he was going to look up. But with my situation, with my husband, I was the one who was not interested in, you know, I'm like, oh, he's not my type, and I even told him this, and, you know, just being weird. But everything that we did together, the time that we spent together, the conversations we had, because out of all the relationships I've had, he was the first person that was truly my friend first, before he was anything else. And as we continued to spend more time together, I accepted the fact that he was my type, and that I I did like him. Um, Sorry if you hear the loud cars in the background, but I did like him to the point of that liking growing into love. I fell in love with him, and we got married, and we have 2 younger children in addition to our oldest girl. So that's why I say you should be open-minded and don't necessarily just be so offensive to, oh, he's not my type, and he's this or he's that. And even for guys, it goes both ways. Sometimes you need to take that chance and just get to know a person to see if this in fact is the person that you want to be with. Even though he gets on my nerves, but I still love him. Isn't that right, babe? They can't hear you. He's shaking his head, but whatever. Anyway, and the last part, the third one that spoke to my soul is the fact that you need to listen to your body. And when I first read this in March, I was, on the tail end of finally coming to terms with my condition. And, you'll hear me speak about it often, even throughout the video vlogs, my podcasts, my reviews. You'll just hear it because it's a part of the person that I am today. However, it doesn't control my life. And if I would, in fact, have listened to my body, perhaps it wouldn't have gotten to this severity, because I'm diagnosed with a conversion disorder, and my trigger is stress. And I'll have symptoms that are similar to what a person who had a stroke would look like, and a person who's having a seizure. So when I let myself get too stressed, I have moments in time where I have difficulty with my speech, my walking. I have tremors, I shake, sometimes I'm not responsive, and all of that. And that's as a result of me letting stuff get to me too much and not paying attention to the warning signs ahead of time. However, as I have progressed through this, I am able to be aware of what my triggers are. And although sometimes I can't avoid them, I can't help minimize how long it affects me. So that's why I say listen to your body. But specifically what in the book it was about was Annalise. She was having these little different things happen where she was kind of feeling dizzy, or oh, maybe I just need to eat, or all this other kind of stuff, when in fact she probably should have went to the doctor already. And the condition that she's diagnosed with is what the author actually has, and she shared at the very end of the book. But why I said that is because of what she was saying. The author, KM, personally, what she had to deal with was the fact that some people didn't believe that what she was saying was really happening, but in fact it was, because it wasn't typical for a person her age to encounter it. Even for myself, when I was at the hospital, I live in Detroit, and I was taken to the hospital by EMS, and I went to Detroit Receiving Hospital, and unfortunately, I was treated horribly. They treated me as if I was a drug addict. And despite the fact that I have several people who came to check on me, visit with me, and be there through all of this, they continued to add stress to my situation while I was there. I heard, neurologists say, oh yeah, I remember her. She's the druggie from the ER, thinking I was non-responsive and couldn't. I was non-responsive, but I could still hear everything that was going around me. To hearing one of the head nurses that never had any one-on-one contact with me, and when they were explaining, doing their shift change or whatnot to a nurse that hadn't dealt with me, was like, yeah, it could be this, or she could just be faking it all. So, to actually hear that, and you're like, man, something's really wrong with me. This is not the Tracy I normally am, and they're not listening to you. Go somewhere else. But always listen to your body. And in the end, my primary care doctor was able to determine what it was, and it initiated an awesome treatment plan for me that I try to remain committed to on a daily, as well as share my experience with others, because a lot of times we keep it in on because we're ashamed or whatever else, and I try not to do that, because if I would have persisted on the life course that I was on, I might not be here today sharing these words with you now. So that's why I say it's very, very important to listen to your body. If you have warning signs, or even, because I know for me, if I see a mark on me that I know is not supposed to be there, my husband's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, that doesn't belong here. I'm trying to see what's going on. So do it. It's important, especially when you aren't here by yourself. I have a whole family to be concerned about, and so that's why it was important for me to figure things out, a better way of doing things. But that's pretty much all I have as far as what truly spoke to my soul when reading this book. If you haven't had an opportunity to read it, please do. Look forward to, I'll tie it in later on once we get to the Juneteenth reads on what I mentioned before in regards to the controversy associated with the book, the list. But thank you for joining me on this one, and as always, happy listening and happy reading. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.